Hi, I'm Garry Thomas Morse, and I'm going to be reading from my book of poetry, Scofflaw, which is currently available from Anvil Press. There's not a lot to say about Scofflaw. It's mainly the titular character, Scofflaw. He is wandering around a prairie landscape and thinking about what's going on there, and also thinking about global issues as well at the same time. Name your poison. We'd heard it all before, but sit yourself down with a facial tissue or two, bound to be pseudo-tragic, this primitive diatribe felt for stress and strain in every section. No way to cram our specialized surus into carved niche or crude aftermath of historical hiccups. Pfft. Speaking of which, the new pesticides are too pricey this summer. What kind of town where them some bitches can drink in public from a dandelion? The other afternoon, plain as a nose on a face, that tawny-edged skipper clung to a purple shoot like nobody's business. We tell our amigo, quit trying to make vetch happen. Won't sleep a wink till that disturbed area is history. Tear up by the roots anything that stirs, bathe in blue light, bask in scenes of a greenish square, prepare the spare tabula rasa clean enough to eat off of. What time the show begin? Acquainted at best with that teller of tall tales, we sink a few in endangered joints with bedroom views in the works. Can still hear the weaker thans from the back room, can still hear ourselves not think. Maybe tear down those idle stretches of repurposed blotouts. Name of progress. Game to try our hand at commodities like organic affect and free-range amnesia. Strum, strum, strum. Listen, before you can say ululation, he's on you, plying his trade something terrible. Quick hands brown from the sun or circumstance of a difficult birth. Don't ask. Calls himself Scofflaw with a voice that cracks into that insectile rasp through rushes you hear through centuries of sheer innovation. After the first mow, we see sweet clover fly up about his bare feet. Stands to reason there's a picture window alongside Jean Brebeuf where Scofflaw steps into the frame. Black swallowtails flit by. Early one morning, he shows us a long row of chrysalises, each from a silken hook suspending disbelief. Each shell's the same shade as the substrate, or so he says. Keep 'em peepers peeled for translucence, a hint of wet wings before eclosion. Whatever. Exterminate the brutes, or at least that wretched European skipper, a colonial threat to our trade in Timothy seed. Feed of champions, prize getters, outside long shots. Meanwhile, our neighbor humble brags about the best poison for the dandelion menace. We expect it might come to blows, but Scofflaw's eyes brim over. In his worldview, grasshoppers are kosher, easily gulled, delicious between marked up, unleavened, what have you, not to mention the way Athenian women wore fake cicadas to show they had sprung from the soil, rocks and trees, flaunting the virtue of being autochthones. Well, that shuts us the fuck up. Nobrainer. We've been round these parts for as long as anybody can remember. The land was grandparented down, and before then our seed blew about like fluff off a female poplar. Pussy willow, sniffed Scofflaw, a first world problem for certain. He's got none too high an opinion of our whole freaking deal. Nothing's to be made out of turf that won't till. Digression becomes him, even that quip about Beethoven answering the landowner under his name, signing brain holder, or Scofflaw's contrary claim, preoccupation with the savage mind subject to geographical amscray. By now we know climate change, not that climate changes us, affects our neuroplasticity, In other words, brains us something wicked. Scofflaw might as well be hectoring in the attic, talking Empedocles, or teasing us with echoes of aeolic murmurations for all his efforts to impress upon us furtive rearrangements of the furniture. In his headspace, carried by charges of imminent storm or masses of warm air that imbue our slightest mishaps with emotional intensity. Negative ions, not negative capability, to sew up his syllogism or what have you. See among the tortoiseshells, sipping willow, the nightmare of any copy editor worth her salt, a stray comma on the wrong side of the tracks. Scofflaw says that some of those glitter-winged critters puddle in clusters to build up salt for sperm, i.e. a male monarch has no body politic when he's fixin' to duplicate Barry North in 3 generations. Before latex there was Asclepius, cribbed for our pleasure, milkweed, the food they follow, the stuff they need to toxify themselves. Migration's hardly our priority given the tug of umbilicals, our kids clambering out of caked earth with a sense of dominion over all winged things, fancy toast down their fronts. Quit lollygagging, Scofflaw. You'll put the little ones off their feed. What about the stone that clove to let out the northern lights? That hunk of labradorite spruces up your desk with primal imminence. Think of a stone hammer passed from hand to hand. Then try not to. What in the trade we call a no-brainer. Copy that? Chemistry metrics. A clatter of yellow light rouses us after daylight savings. With traumarai between our ears, lemon-scented, held open mouth, likely the chloroform in liquid fabric softener or dryer sheets riffing on conceptual list poem. Benzyl acetate, benzyl alcohol, ethanol, yummy limonene, or the aforementioned carcinogen, neurotoxin, flouting scent-free policy, nilling us softly. Pardon our parrhesia about the view from below the poverty line. Singing in the shower nearly took a tumble, hearing the right to drinking water going down the drain, swabbing Scofflaw's finger wag for the dash of Indian hemoglobin he periodically laid claim to, the word cued for deletion in 30 days. In the background, a celebratory drone about the death of natural grasslands, canola grown, the proceeds gone towards canned goods, thanks to grassroots extirpation. The impostume of much wealth by harvest time, our yield will be on the table, exchanged for the innards of ignorables. Except there are things the language of prairie dogs cannot explain. Dream Snatcher. After, before, John Newlove. This is based on a John Newlove poem. Fall off any horizon, stuff that in your vape and toke it. Not another word about fields of pure yellow, watching paint dry, chewing yellow cake, impromptu Sundance, choreographed to jump, scare, warning, another ricochet between stereotypes, pitching woo at the bell of the chit kicker's ball. Fall off any horizon with a wampum of squandered memory. Reread the script. Insert stage direction for straight shooters, right and wrongs. Drum up fashion-conscious headdress. Indians carefully petrified in that country. The perfect regift for dustable rustication, the perfect product for Turtle Island, crafted locally or thereabouts, from kelp skirt to elk stew. Now turn the other cheekbone. Virtue mean the peeps who made your clothes and phone, painstakingly ground into chalk. Fall off any horizon, the Geronimo's a real nosedive off the edge of Square Prairie. Brown nose, connoisseur niche, swallow the latest stats, service with a smile for the signatories of history. Truth, the quantum curvature of retinal distress, fall off any horizon where no one can hear you breechcloth. Wild nights, out creep the creeps. Indians, settlers, cabbies, cops, mad for contact, characters who love you roughly. Fall off any horizon, see if the body will be curated, reconciled by all accounts. Step right up, see the grandiloquent pretendian ply his truck. Look for the symbol of authenticity under the foundation. Reconstruct those amazing technicolor bloodlines till a hatchet job of interest crops up. Say the names, say the claims, say the cultural frames, make the cuts, then dramatize that perfect demise. Trust fall into blanched snowbank of a clean, well-lighted legend. Fall off at any horizon, no one will notice your agency caught in the crossfire, no pressure to compact the cronyism with a firm hand snake, unctuous to the touch, this double-headed slither, drowned in its undrinkability, drowned out these dreams of manifest destiny and baleful chinook, snatched away by raiding parties in hazy clobber. Fall for any horizon while supplies last. Autofocus. Picture in the preterite or pluperfect our petulant ambassador, trunculent about his initiative for a nation-wide cooperative cannibalization of corporate bodies, potluck diet of diversity divestment group, nibbles of sympathetic ears pressed against closed glass, manufacturing picturesque lakeside cloning, indigeneity for generations, on night class whiteboard, the con efficiens in coefficient, the Latin for sineways in triplicate. The second Scofflaw's elegies for bedroom burb collapse, we see a guy gulling gulls with his toy plane, a red-tailed hawk takes refuge in a tree nearby, reflects on history's remote idiocy, absentee landlordism, whisper after whisper, tumbleweeding by, cadenzas for the mother tongue in trouble. Hate waste. A spot of housekeeping as to what's to go out. Here we'd like to recognize the extent of this imaginary territory. Recognize the specious species of cryptolect in this degradable ragbag, commas with scorched camouflage, tattered tortoiseshells named after the pattern on the back of an endangered turtle, pictures not of our kissers, chrysalises blown after eclosion, escapees flown into aspen cavities. Here we'd like to recognize what the Navajos say about the black swallowtail watching over the spirit. Recognize that retract or redact is the interrogative. Back away slowly. First thought, best thought, even this font is ontological varmint, roughly the pigment of Nabokov's know-how about blues he had never seen take flight. Shred, do not shed one tear over prickly rebuffs in a breast pocket with all the charm of a war-torn communique. Here we'd like to recognize the young in one another's dysphoria, wings that whir with the rustle of period dresses, with the bustle of sexed-up tremulation, our checkered past, our checkered whites, outlets for our earthing, plugging in our bed sheets, letters of overweening affection tossed as confetti, stenciled grains of rice released from onion glove. Other images flap by, crows head from staging area to concealed roost, traverse a red sky. Here we'd like to recognize usurer hangs cozener, what my cousin says, big crook put little crook in solitary. Go against the grain, they run you down, go near an enclosure, they gun you down. Amherst and Ernest handing out plague to the wrong Indians, exemplar of Naritas nullius, that unoccupied gray matter, that conspicuous imprint, windrow to soul erosion. Here we'd like to call it in. Careless talk of scalping law stuck in our craw, consensual tactility at anti-oppression boot camp, that eldest organism, the first to orgasm, persuasion and excrete contagion out of the same multitasker, the ooze of every oleaginous phrase, proven to choke and croak ozone, cochlear hairs tickled to the limit of sonic stimulation, this stupid pelvic response. Here a pelican lands upon the loch, sifts through slime for metaphors with gular pouch slurping translation of planetary extirpation into gold mine. This sunken figurehead, suspect chromatism, gloam upon zygoma of colloidal beauty mask. This lust upon plastic crust, this warm dispatch from slashes in distressed pants, scraps of the unrequited, freighted back, unsalvageable. Selvage from the skein of thought, subject to grubby chop shop. Here we'd like to recognize the freaking long poem we built over a heap of bones, the same old story of a bring-your-own-pillory approach, the mouth honest full of uncouth anacoluthon from an ancient tongue for does not follow. The weather with its pathetic fallacy, uneasy as a stomach full of fritillaries feeding on loose strife beneath a crowd of mammatus clouds. The same old handbill nailed to telephone pole. Call in all scofflaws. You could not miss an lockthon in a shady corner of the territory with enough swag and that flim-flam swagger to get your goat up. Nothing could be more contrary to the truth. No other feller has more oil for your toil, more illusions for your confusion, more balm for your quivering limbs, more blessed calm for your jim-jams. Fed up with foreign parts breaking down in your poems, flat out tired of seeing that sty in your mind's eye, then jog on down to the nearest re-education station for a free metacog worth 350 social credits. If you are not 100% satisfied in 15 days, notify one of our agents. Confidentiality will be monitored for quality assurance. Puncture. A hole in blackened chrysalis meets the field of our view, about the proportions of a legal loophole, yea big, property through which drained wetland was dragged. We agree to keep out, creeping by space-age flanks of monster home compound under construction. We peep through that hole, cite the predictive factors for social parasitism, plain and simple. Scofflaw says caterpillars of certain blues mingle among red ant larvae, mimic the queen if necessary. Not for the first time he loses the plot, leaves 1,200 labors, leaves counting the number of white moths a chipping sparrow can knock back. Hundreds? Falling short of hyperbole attributable to the latest muse in wide cycling pants, trammeling character arc under the tread, worse for wear, in need of repair, before she can be tossed up into minor constellation. Never mind, with allies like these. Jesus, another exegesis. You always gotta pour milk on the dictionary for breakfast, Scofflaw? Picture the sole survivor of our spectacular catastrophe being a tardigrade. No more simian faces scratched upon cave surface. No more mammalian lily-dipping currents of a boggle-tastic universe. Another pat on the back for our capacity for self-annihilation. Back in the day, nothing was safe as houses. This nuclear family with digital Xanadu hunkering down in bunker, basking in splendid blue light. If that ain't progress, then I sure don't know what is. True story. Eyes upon aft wing, a little wood nymph flits by, the comma perched upon poplar body, with red, orange, yellow coquetry. Grail is the question mark, stuck to slender basswood or hanging from heart-shaped leaves, if not drunk on hops or proboscis deep in dung heap. More than once we wonder why you linger here, Scofflaw, why you set us dreaming of purple butterflies just out of reach. A stern wind whistles through his frame. His voice barely audible, he recapitulates faint emanations of former aspirations. the latest to see the diversity gardens before he goes underground. Today, the webinars on how certain kinds of punctuation can puncture your hopes. Notice there's no etc. butterfly. As for the colorful question marks, we take them for notches on a perfectly viable career path. Thanks for listening.